there. Isn't this just perfect? We were just at the stadium, Councilmember Nelson and City Manager Bonnie Severtek, and we were talking about what a glorious day to be in Lynchburg and to live, work, and play here. And we're so happy because two things, actually probably all three will be happening here soon on this wonderful grounds of Locus Thicket. But it is an exciting day for Locust Thicket and for our city. It is such a beautiful home. I love this home. And actually, we had my daughter and son-in-law's rehearsal party right here. I don't know if you know that, but they were right here celebrating, and then we went in and had a wonderful meal here. And when that restaurant closed, it was so sad to me, and I really wanted to see this place brought back because I have such fond memories of it. I remember when the Jacksons lived here, and I used to come over here and get exquisite antiques from Miss Jackson. So it's exciting to have, as I said, our city manager, Bonnie Severtek, here, and to have my fellow council member, Randy Nelson, here. So we've had a busy day in the Burg, but it's a good busy, folks. It's a good busy. And then we have joining us members of the EDA. We have, I think I see two. I see Susan Ackley, no longer, but a former member of the EDA. You know, you're forever in my mind, an EDAer. And we have the chair, which is Michael Luckadoo, standing over here. And, of course, we have Bill Lovren. I was just for a moment paused. Excuse me, Bill Lovren here. Any other EDA members? And it's great to see our tourism folks here. We appreciate you all coming because this is a big piece of tourism today. And of course, we have our illustrious EDA director, Margette. So thank you, Margette, for being here and making things happen in our city. You know, this property has been a part of our history for 200 years. It goes back to the 18th century. And that is why when Lynchburg was approached several years ago to designate this area as a local historical district, it made perfect sense to us. This is a historical home. It needs to be really preserved in our community for not only today, but for tomorrow and for a lot of tomorrows after that. I'm so pleased that today's announcement, drum roll, we're getting ready to announce something big, folks, is proof that we made the right decision, Randy, when we did that. We made the right decision, yay, EDA. It's also a testament to me to the state's desire to partner with localities and stakeholders in, I'm going to say, projects like this or adventures like this, because that makes not only Lynchburg better, not only our region better, but our state a better place to live. So I am so honored to have the privilege to welcome Rita McClenny, who is president and CEO of the Virginia Tourism Corporation, back to Lynchburg, because that means you've been here for other things like this, and we want you to come back many more times. And I'm going to ask you to come to the podium and kind of make this huge announcement to all of us today. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a hand clap here. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it is a delight to be back in Lynchburg, one of the gems of the Commonwealth, and a beautiful city with a great vision. And we love our history in Virginia. So today is extra special because Locus Thicket and this region holds a special history in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And as Paul was describing and walking me around and pointing out locations and sites and, the preservation that's going on and all that he and Sarah have learned actually while developing the property and how special that is. We every day we can learn and we're open. And that's what visitors love when they go on vacation and when they're discovering places that add to the authenticity of an experience. and they want to touch and feel and know and get a deeper understanding. So I just imagine those who have walked here before, those who are part of this story of Locus Thicket, the Manor House, the families who've owned it, their descendants, the people who will want to come back and make it part of their family history. And again, it's just very enriching and I think very soulful part of Virginia and those indigenous people who were in this territory before. You know, so it's really a multi-layered and multi-sensory experience. And I just can imagine the groups coming in and enjoying the restaurant and now looking at, you know, the expansion of the dining room with the chef's tasting table. Oh my goodness. So it's like, wow, hey, Lynchburg, you guys do it right. So a part of today's great announcement is really recognizing this program that is relatively new for the Commonwealth. It's our Virginia Tourism Growth Fund grant program. And I'd like to recognize Wirt Confroy, who manages the program. Wirt. Katie Connor, who is a tourism development specialist here in this region. Katie. And just a special shout out who you will hear from, Sarah Gay and Lisa, who manage tourism here in the region. They do such a fine job. They're such great partners. And they really do tap into the tourism programs that we have, whether we're marketing abroad, whether it's a regional project, whether it's looking at meetings, conventions, or leisure travel, they're on it. And Lynchburg has grown. And Sarah Gay will talk about the numbers, but I can't help but be proud that the economic impact for this region is $177 million. It's up over 5% from 2014. So give yourselves a hand in really growing tourism, 1,600 jobs plus. So all of that is a part of a great story because tourism does transform communities. And it really adds to the vibrancy. The mayor mentioned about living, working, and playing, and that is a part of the story. And I think us all working together and collaborating, whether it's a stadium or a hotel property, restaurant, catering facility, historic property, you know, really bringing together state, local, and all of the resources that we have amassed to make this a reality today is a real delight. So it is with great pleasure that I announce the Commonwealth of Virginia's Tourism Growth Fund Award to Locus Thicket in the amount of $72,000. So that's great news. And Locus Thicket's growth as a tourism destination is expected to encompass $480,000 in capital investment. And it's projected to create a tax benefit of more than $51,000 to the city and create 14 full-time equivalent jobs. So that is impressive, and working with the city of Lynchburg to match the state contribution is an important part of the program and an important part of developing tourism here in the Lynchburg region and in the city in particular. And again, this will all help the citizens prosper because we know that the revenue that's generated by tourism helps all of the things that government is intended to do for its citizens, whether it's education, healthcare, the list goes on. But those are the things that are expected. And the one thing about tourism in particular, a portion of it is the people come, they spend the money, and they go home. So it's like a perfect in-law, you know? It's a good thing. And this statewide plan, again, attached to what the state does from tourism, it isn't, we call it an instant revenue generator, because when that consumer goes and swipes the card or puts down their cold cash, that money is in the general fund within 90 days. So that's a great thing. And again, I'll specifically mention the local tax receipts are $6.9 million. Again, up over 5%. So you guys are doing an excellent job. Very impressive if you look statewide at Lynchburg's growth. And I wish you all the best to kind of keep it up. And at this time, I'd like to call up Paul Hughes and Sarah Quinn, the mayor, and everyone. I want to present this check to you all. We'll have a photo.
This is awesome. And one of my fellow council members is here, Mr. Sterling Wilder. Sterling, would you like to come up? It's a good day when you get a check. It's such a big check. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's huge. Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay, wonderful. And at this time, I'd like to invite Paul and Sarah to come up to receive a very special momentum. This is Virginia flag, as you can tell, and it is flown over the state capitol. So we hope that you display this in a beautiful place here. And as the governor would say, he went up the flagpole and pulled it down himself. So it's a very, very special flag from the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Put you guys over the flag. Great. Awesome.
Paul and Sarah, would you like to say a few words? Here's your chance, because this is an exciting day for you all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mayor Foster, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick thank you from we, who are honored and privileged to be the current custodians of the Locus Thicket Historic District. As was mentioned earlier, many have gone before us, and we indeed feel privileged to have the current honor of this custodianship of this beautiful property, this historic landmark, which has gone a little bit under the radar for a while, and we certainly intend to see to it that that changes as we move forward now with the completion of the first stage of the renovations and restorations. Still have 5 or 6 more to go. We have an ice well, and we have the original water well. As was mentioned, we are constantly uncovering new things. Even just 2 weeks ago, as we were getting ready to plant bulbs for the spring, just over here behind you, you'll see there's a piece of plastic on the yard on the other side of the white chain. We uncovered, which I hope Jack Gary from Poplar Forest at 3 o'clock is going to confirm to me, is the original walkway, the cobblestone walkway, which led from the carriageway where the carriages came off Old Forest Road up to the main house. It's in a direct line, if you have a look at it, to the front door of the house. Had no idea it was there. And then bang, plant a few bulbs and look what you find. So even after 3 years, we're still finding many, many interesting things as we go forward. Again, the restoration of the cemetery has been in process for many years with the assistance of the Sons and Daughters of the American Revolution and the Sons of the Union veterans who've worked with us. Professor Cliff Potter from Lynchburg College is a direct descendant of Major Scott, who built this property in 1790. And he worked with us and his family to, locate the cemetery, which you're welcome to have a look at if you like. It's still in restoration, but it's well underway. So there's lots to do and lots of history to invite people to come back to Lynchburg. We're also involved in promoting with Sergey and Lisa domestic tourism and interstate tourism facilities, combining the food and beverage facilities here with a historic bus tour facility, which is soon to be implemented. And so there's lots of things going on at Locus Thicket and things that we certainly look forward to during this period of our privilege of custodianship. After all, Locus Thicket belongs to the citizens of Lynchburg. And we invite them all to come and enjoy, in the first instance, the Manor House restaurant, which is now open and running for, here comes the plug, for dinner, lunch, and brunch, sub $10 lunch and a $12 brunch. And so all come and enjoy, and we look forward to offering the hospitality of the Manor House to all the citizens of Lynchburg. Thank you for your time.
Paul, just thank you for having vision to see this and to see the grandeur that it can be and probably has been. If these grounds could just talk, it would be exciting to listen to them and tell the stories that happened here. But we'll probably, I guess, unearth that as you go along. So thank you for doing that and to preserving the things that are really unique to Lynchburg. I'm going to invite Sergey Trubetskoy up to just say a few words. He heads up our tourism. And Sergey, I just want to thank you for the role that you all play in getting people here and you know what, Rita, I'm okay if those folks come back and live and start a business in Lynchburg. I'm okay with all of that too. So we've got to, first impressions count, and this will be a great one. So, Sergey, just a few words, if you would. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah and Paul, we owe them so much because they have stuck with this project for a number of years. And when I first came to Lynchburg to take the job as Director of Tourism, they were among the first people to get in touch with me. And we came out here and were very impressed with what we saw. We learned about their vision for the property. And we are so excited that they are the first recipient of this funding from the Virginia Tourism Corporation. And we really appreciate what City Council and the city administration has done to create a tourism zone here in Lynchburg. We're one of the very few communities in the state which is really taking advantage of this new program. And we are going to reap the great benefits of the tourism zone and the financial support that we're getting from the Virginia Tourism Corporation. And we thank Rita for making the trip here, and we look forward to helping to get people to come here and leave money in Lynchburg. Thank you.
You're singing my song, Sergey. So thank all of you all for coming. Mike Luckadoo, EDA, thank you for being here today. Margette, for the part you play every day. And that enthusiasm of yours is very contagious. And thank you for loving our city. And thank you, Bonnie, for all you do for us, too. And again, my fellow council members, Sterling and Randy, thank you for being here today. And so can we go in and kind of tour this beautiful place, or do we have to come back and just eat?
We'll give it to her.
All right, tour and then maybe eat, because I have eaten here. It's wonderful. And can you imagine this at Christmas time and the fall time? You know, to me, it's a little, I love Williamsburg. It's a little piece of Williamsburg right here because of the 18th centuryness vibe I feel going on here. So thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Virginia, for partnering with Lynchburg, and all those who've come out to support that. So let's take our tour.
Obviously, one of the first things we wanted to do, and I know that those that used to come to Grace Restaurant or to Jackson's Antique would be used to walking in the back of the building, so they used to use the bar door. One of the main things that we wanted to achieve was obviously to build this pathway around the front of the building, because the thing that came about when we were talking was the fact that most people had no idea what the front of the house actually looked like. They would go from the car park or the parking lot to the back door and then leave again. And so one of the first things we wanted to do was obviously give people the opportunity to come around the front of the building and then be able to see this beautiful front facade that we have, and not only that, but the beautiful front lawn. And the fact that most people didn't even know that the original family were actually buried here on the property. And so the cemetery is in that top left-hand corner. So we actually have soldiers from the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and the War of 1812 all buried in the cemetery there. Another thing that a lot of people don't know is the fact that the Battle of Lynchburg, western flank, actually happened in this front yard. And wallpaper that was removed during the Jackson's Antique era from this dining room over here is actually in a museum, not only because it epitomized the type and style of wallpaper from that particular era, but it actually had bullet holes in it from the Civil War. And I actually have some of that, a replica of that paper here. So this is the front foyer of the house. As I said, most people didn't realize this was the front because they were so used to coming in the back, and so that was the reason why we built the path the way that we did. The other really interesting thing about this house is Travis McDonald, who's the restorational architect out at Poplar Forest. He actually came over here. He was going to spend 20 minutes. He actually spent 2 days. And he said the interesting thing about the house is the fact that most of it is original. Obviously the electric light and the plumbing and things like that aren't, but if you look at the floorboards, you'll notice they're all single span floorboards, so they're actually hand hewn to fit in each of the individual rooms. individual foundations. One of the major things we had to do when we first bought the property was actually stabilize the structure. The foundation walls are actually handmade bricks, and they had actually started to subside, which meant that when we started to look at it, the joists, they were actually hanging on by 1/4 of an inch on each side. And so we had to re-stabilize the entire foundation, or unfortunately, the whole thing was going to come crashing down above our heads. So anyway, the front foyer, we have a downstairs dining room, which was the old parlor room of the existing house. We've done something particularly unique in this room over here. I don't know if many of you are aware of our culinary director, Jason Arbusto. We're super excited to have Jason here in Lynchburg. Jason is actually a VES graduate. He actually did his high school here. He then went up to the Culinary Institute of America, and after he graduated top of his class, he actually got a internship in France. So he was only going for 6 months. He ended up staying 8 years, and he actually was the protege of Alain Ducasse, who is the most Michelin-starred chef in the world. He holds 21 Michelin stars. When Jason finally decided that he wanted to come back to the United States, Alain said, not so easy. He said, you can go, but I want you to be executive chef of the largest 1-star Michelin restaurant in the world in Las Vegas. And so he went to Las Vegas and did that. He had, like most of us, a love of Lynchburg, and so he decided he wanted to return to Lynchburg. We got in contact with each other, and he moved his entire family here to be our culinary director. So we have an incredible culinary director and experience in our kitchens here, which is probably why it smells so good in here. However, because of Jason's background and everything else, he is put together a chef's table. Now, most people, think DC, Charleston, those sorts of areas to get that sort of culinary experience. We're going to have it right here in Lynchburg. It is a special menu that he's going to be putting together. It will be designed specifically for that group. A questionnaire will go out. It will include your likes, your dislikes, how adventurous you are, with food, etc. And he will design that based on whatever is seasonally available on that particular night. So it will be never to be repeated again. Experience. So as we go through, if you want to stick your head in there and have a look, we use Virginia barnwood throughout all of the wine racks, the chef counter. The chef's table will be released in the next couple of weeks, but it's in that room over there. And then as we come through this area here, which is the area that most people were used to coming into, this is our bar area, this area over here. Pre-dinner drinks before dinner, just a social area for people to hang out in. Again, we wanted to pay homage to the history. So in this room here, we actually had a local artist hand paint a timeline on the wall that gives you a little bit of a rundown of the history of the property, which is kind of unique. Again, wanting to keep the theme of the history. So Virginia barnwood, obviously, again in the bar area, we kept all of the fireplaces in their original conditions. And again, the floorboards are all original. So we have 3 private dining areas up here. So we can accommodate overflow for the dining area downstairs. Or for here, Tuesday night I've got 2 private parties booked in, one downstairs, one upstairs, because the great thing about this is obviously it was a residential house, and so it has that privacy element that a lot of businesses look for. So we have our own restrooms in each one of the rooms, so you are completely self-contained here for a dinner or a lunch or an anniversary, a birthday party, wedding rehearsal dinner. It really has that flexibility to do all sorts of different occasions. And then we have a lovely little landing area just in case you want to have a drink. And then over on this side, we actually have 2 rooms. We have a secondary bar area up here. This area we use a lot for private events. So if you want a cocktail hour, standing event, social hour, and then we have this other private dining area in this side. So this gives us the capacity to do more private events, and it makes us have the capacity to do 3 completely different events. So we can have our dining room open downstairs, we can have a private event in the room over there, and still have a totally separate private event over here.
So nice, because I know when restaurants do private events, they lose, they have to ratchet it up.
Well, it's a twofold exercise. They either have to close off a whole section of their restaurant, and then the group still feels like they're sort of in the middle of the restaurant. Whereas here we can still have regular diners who have come for a dinner experience downstairs, and then have the private events completely separate. They have their own bathrooms. They're completely self-contained. We can close these doors off, and it can be just them, which is really nice.
That's neat.
And this obviously has a secondary staircase too here, which is really handy for service, which means that our guests get to use the main staircase and the staff can run food and other bits and pieces. And that actually goes back down to the chef's table room, and so direct to the
Does
kitchen.
that go around this
It
way?
actually is a bathroom, so that is the restroom for this room in here, so we keep this door permanently locked just so that they can use that. But again, it has tremendous character. I mean, if you look at the doors and the carpenter locks and, the moldings and everything like that. So we kept it very minimalist. We didn't want to overpower it. We really wanted to speak to the tradition of the house. I mean, if you look at a lot of these older homes, or I actually have Major Scott's will and a copy of what he had when he passed, and they didn't have a lot of furniture. It was very sparsely accommodated, and so again, we wanted to pay homage to that sort of period and make it comfortable, but make it more in tune with the way it would have been.